Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Devaney and today's video is going to be about books. So in my first video, I mentioned that I've read, 58, 59 books this year, and I had a goal to read 60 books this year. So how that came about was around, probably January. I don't do New Year's resolutions, but this year I made a goal. And this year's goal was going to be to read, I think at the time I said it was going to read 25 books. And I hit that a long time ago, and then I extended that to maybe 50 books, and then I pushed it again to 60 books once I hit that goal. I love to read. I've always loved to read. Books are just a really fun hobby. So earlier this year, one of the podcasts that I listen to every day started a sub-podcast, which is a book club podcast. That book club, if you're interested, is called the Redheads Book Club. And every month they read one book. So it just aligned with my goal of reading more this year. And then from that podcast, there was a subgroup on Facebook where the redheads, so people who follow this podcast, they would join, they'd talk about our monthly reads, other books that they've read this month. And through this whole reading rabbit hole, I found the Bookstagram community. So what is Bookstagram? Bookstagram is an Instagram community, which is so awesome. They're so nice, they're so welcoming, and they're just a bunch of people who love to read books and take really great photos. There's an amazing Bookstagram aesthetic. And so I created a Bookstagram. I will link it in the bio, and it has just some of the books that I read, and it has some reviews and my personal opinions about the books that I've been reading. Every month I try to average about 4 books. Some months I've read a lot more. And then in the summer, it kind of slowed down a bit. So here we are, it's the end of October, and I finished my 60th book. So to keep track of the books that I've read this year, I used the app Goodreads. So Goodreads is either through or affiliated with Amazon, and they have reviews, people post reviews, they have summaries of the books, and then you just keep track of books that you want to read, books that you have read, and where you are in your books. So if you are a reader, I highly suggest using Goodreads just to figure out some good reads. So one of the things that got me to that 60 book goal was buying a Kindle. Best investment of 2020. If you're in Canada, Kobo's also a great alternative because you can use it with the library, which we can't use Kindle with your library here. I've probably read 50% more books this year just because I got a Kindle. So that brings us to my monthly segment for now, it's called Monthly Reads. I'm working on a really catchy name. And with these monthly reads, I'll just let you know what I've read for the month, probably what the first book that I'm gonna bring into the next month, and just what I think about those books. So here we go. For the month of October, I read 5 books, which is pretty standard for me, getting through 5 books in a month. Between August and October, I started a ton of books that just didn't grab me and I couldn't finish them. And number 5 is where I hit that 60 book goal. So the first book that I read this month is called Letters from Christopher. Didn't buy this book, didn't want to read it, I didn't want to touch it, I didn't want to think about it. Netflix recently brought out the documentary on the Christopher Watts and the Watts family tragedy. And Christopher from prison, he wrote, I guess, his side of the story or his confession. Anyway, so I read the book. I read it in one afternoon because I was not going to invest any more time into it. It was horrible, not just from the side of the story itself. It's tragic, it's horrible. If you want to know about it, there's obviously the Netflix documentary, there's everything. It's all over the news, but it's awful. And then to make awful more awful, the writing was just dumb. I don't know if it was verbatim his words or his letters from jail, whatever. It was just gross. 1 star out of 5, and that's only because Goodreads doesn't let you do 0 stars or negative stars. So that's that on that. The second book I read this month, oh, I love this book. Okay, so the second book I read this month was a physical book. It's called There's Something About Sweetie by Sandhya Menon. I'm so sorry, I definitely know I butchered that name. Last month I was looking for some new books, and one company that I purchased through a lot is called bookoutlet.ca. They give you great books for super cheap. So last month I bought the first book in the series called When Dimple Met Rishi. I knew nothing about the book, but New York Times bestseller, which now that I've read so much, I don't think that's a huge qualifier. I digress. But it was a super adorable story. I love a love story. I love a YA book. It just has a special place in my heart. So after finishing this book, I saw that there's a couple more books in the series. So naturally, I had to get it. So I ordered it through the same bookoutlet.ca. They also have bookoutlet.com if you are in the States. When I say good prices, this book was probably $3 or $4. It's not even your typical boy meets girl story. It's boy comes from Indian culture, couldn't meet girl, parents set him up with girl of their culture. They didn't mean to fall in love, but they fall in love. And it was just such a sweet story. So I loved it. I needed to read it before it came in the mail, so I got it on the Kindle, started it there, picked it back up with the physical book, and bounced back and forth. And then there's a third book in the series called From Twinkle with Love. I might have already purchased it, I don't know, but if not, it'll be on my November list, I hope. So the third book I read this month was actually our Redheads Book Club book of the month, and it is called Have You Seen Louise Velez? By Katherine Ryan Hyde. This one I did read on my Kindle. I loved it. 5 out of 5 stars. I don't even know how to summarize the book without giving the whole thing away. From the cover, it looks like, you know, a boring old person story. It's not the type of book that I would just pick up, but that's the point. I guess my main takeaway from the book was don't judge a book by its cover. Literally. There's just so many things in that book that stand out, and the book literally kept me up all night. I'm not gonna lie, the book isn't spectacularly written, but it was so moving. I wanted to keep reading. I wanted to see how this relationship between this young boy and his blind elderly neighbor blossomed. I wanted to see their real feelings. I wanted to see the outcome of certain things, and how other people can perceive something could so vastly change the outcome of things, can change our justice system, can change how you see and perceive yourself. So that book, 5 out of 5, I absolutely loved it. It opened my eyes to a lot more, but with that book, I'm definitely going to be more intentional and just try not to judge. And it's so easy to judge and put people into categories and say like, this is my group and this is my tribe and those kind of things. So highly recommend, do it. The fourth book I read this month is called Influencer, Building Your Personal Brand in the Age of Social Media by Brittany Hennessy. And I also read it on the Kindle. I probably never in a million years would have bought this book, but it was part of the Kindle Daily Deals for $1.99. The book's just kind of written by a content creator, and I guess she books influencers for different things, and she's just giving people tips on how to be a successful influencer in this day and age. It has tips and tricks from certain people in the industry, from all spheres, from vloggers, bloggers, social media content creators, and I don't know what I would rate it because my rating scale has been mostly based on like fiction books or not personal development, but let's see what I gave it on Goodreads. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I don't know why. I'm typically a very hard rater on Goodreads. I guess if you're into wanting to know more about social media marketing or being an influencer, Instagram, how to use that to your benefit, great book. And the final book that I read for October was Majesty, the long-awaited sequel to American Royals. There's 2 big books that I saw this year in the YA category that were essentially the same story, just slightly different. American Royals, so the sequel to American Royals, and the other was the sequel to The Heir Affair. So clearly the young adults of the world have been taken by the Meghan Markle effect, and we just love a royal love story. Fun fact, my first celebrity crush was Prince Harry, so I will always love a royal story. So this one's the sequel. It's kind of funny that both books did try to incorporate the William and Kate story or the Harry and Meghan story in their own way. And so this one, they're American royals. It's just like the British royal family, but if they were in Washington. This one, You don't have to, but when you read the first book, it makes a lot more sense. I only read the first book earlier this year, but even try to remember like who's supposed to be the queen, who's the siblings, who are the friends, all of that. It was a little tricky. It was a good book. I definitely gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I'd probably give it 4.3. Really quick read. Great for the genre that it's in. I mean, the author even did a great job of making you feel something for the main villain character. So when I'm feeling empathy for a garbage character, but those are the 5 books that I read this month. Going into next month, I have started reading another book that came up on the Kindle Daily Deals, Daring Greatly by Brené Brown. It's been recommended by everyone and their brother. Again, New York Times bestseller, so why not? Now that I've hit my goal of 60 books and we have 2 full months left of the year, I don't know what to do. I don't think I'm gonna move it to 75, and I don't need that kind of pressure in my life at this time of the year. Like, Christmas is coming and that's stressful enough. I think my next goal might just be to finish one of the 7 or 8 books that I've started and haven't finished. I want to make this a monthly segment, just letting you know what I've read this month, similar to like my Bookstagram. So this could be a booktube? I don't know, we'll work on it. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to continue on this book journey with me, get some good reviews and just recommendations for books that you might not have seen on your own, follow me at my Bookstagram. Also, you can follow me at my normal Instagram page. And then, of course, please like and subscribe to this video. Tell all your friends. Who knows, maybe they'll get some good book recommendations. And I'll see you in the next video.